Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to Come Sit and Chat with Dr. Clay. I'm just going to just take a pause at the moment and make sure everyone can hear me properly. Good. I just got the thumbs up that all is well and everyone can hear me properly. I also want you guys to know that you are able to text me a little comment or a question in the comment section. I will definitely make sure I'm paying attention to that a little bit so that I am addressing everybody's comments and concerns. I do also recognize there may be a little bit of a delay, and because of that, you might see me pausing a little or maybe reaching over and getting my cold water to take a sip, which will give everyone some time to catch up. Okay, so I just want you to know that's why. If you see me doing any of those things, that's why. So if you're here, please give me a thumbs up or something so I know that you're here and I can say hello to you. All right. Well, today's Come Sit and Chat is going to be focused on how are the kids? Because guess what? They're still here, they're still around. Hi, Sally. Thank you. Um, the kids are still around, and school is still closed, and they're home. And things have been extended a tad bit. So we know with this ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, it has resulted in many quarantine and social isolation measures that I know and you know that these things were designed to keep us physically distanced from each other, and we don't know how long it's going to be. But we do know that some of these, all of these, not some, all of these restrictions are very necessary because they prevent the spread of coronavirus. They are also causing a widespread mental health effect as well. I know many of you are like, well, what do you mean, Dr. Clay? Well, that means that we are seeing individuals showing signs of depression, showing signs of loneliness, and this is happening amongst our younger crowd as well as our older crowd alike. Okay, so social distancing is necessary because coronavirus is spreading and it kills. All right, so we also know that it has also been affecting our daily routines. And I know, especially for children, this is not fun. It has been an extremely traumatic time for kids. Parents, I need you to recognize that there are certain things that you should be paying attention to. And I know you're going to say, well, why are you making such a big deal of this? Children go through stuff all the time. But we need to pay attention, and I'm checking to make sure nobody's saying anything. We need to pay attention to their behaviors, okay? Because there are warning signs when your child is not able to cope with something. So, when you see some changes in their behaviors, I'm going to point out some of these changes. You need to pay attention to them because it may be nothing, it may just be a one time thing, but if it's something that's ongoing, it may be a larger issue. The reason I want you to know that I am stressing this topic today is because many of my clients have been sharing some pretty sad instances where their kids have been reacting to the quarantine and isolation of COVID-19 very negatively. And I need you guys to take this seriously because if it can happen to one family, it can also happen to your family. So please pay attention to the behaviors that your children are showing. All right. So if all of a sudden your child starts to show difficulty concentrating, this could be a red flag, especially if normally your child has been able to concentrate on different things at home as well as at school previously. And all of a sudden they're struggling to stick to tasks for a long time. They might just get up and abandon something. They might be displaying signs of not listening or unable to listen. They're so distracted that they're not hearing you when you speak to them, or they're not able to carry out instructions, right? We are trying to get our children to start expressing their feelings. We want them to be comfortable asking you questions, anything that might be bothering them or concerning them right now. Just because you're not hearing from your children doesn't mean that there may not be some concerns that they may have within them. Okay? You want to make sure that they are involved in family activities that you're doing, be it on a daily or weekly basis. Okay, you don't want them hidden away in their room or self-isolating even more when they're in quarantine. So I know this might sound a little vague for some of you, but you need to pay attention to the patterns of your child's behaviors. You know your children more than anyone else, and there are normal patterns that children actually they're doing that you know, oh, that's just my kid. But then if all of a sudden you're seeing them, actually presenting behavior that is abnormal for your child, please pay attention. Red flag, okay? You need to be aware of that, right? So if your child is quieter than usual, or more withdrawn, or all of a sudden your child who is quite independent and was following instructions and things like that starts having temper tantrums and starts being extremely defiant to you. I know some of you are like, oh God, just box them in the mouth now. Licks, licks, licks. During this time, that might not be the best way for you to address a child who is all of a sudden being defiant when you know, wait a minute, that's not my kid. My child never did that previously. So, right now, children are experiencing a lot of frustration. You may see them having increased conflicts with their siblings, and they may have some mood swings, where they're not handling things very well. Please chime in if you know that you have recognized that with your children. Ask the questions. Please share the examples. Some of you I know have been noticing your kids are pushing back, especially when it comes to when you're telling them time to do your schoolwork. Well, that might be a little normal, I'll say, because children are not accustomed to this distance learning thing. And many of them are definitely not accustomed to their parents. We're having trouble with the video. Let's see. Sorry, we're having trouble with the video. Are you still seeing me, Ian? It says it's having trouble with the video, so I'm pausing. If you're still seeing me, please put a text and tell me that you're still seeing me, and I will continue. Please. Yes. Okay. Oh, wonderful. Okay, good. All right, we're still seeing me. So I can't see me anymore, but I won't worry about that. So children are not accustomed to their parents being teachers. I don't know about you, but I would probably be like, oh my God, I don't know how I would handle if my mom was my teacher or my professor at school. It might be an issue for me. It does definitely is. It would say so. So also, you'll find during this time that children might start regressing in their behavior. Thank you, CT cover. Thank you. Good. I'm glad. I'm going to just continue. No worries. What I mean by when they start regressing in their behavior under stress is that sometimes children, when they're afraid, this is how they show their anxiety through their fear. You'll start seeing a kid who was, very independent, very brave, all of a sudden starting to hide under the covers, and they're afraid of everything when they were not previously. All of a sudden, you might start seeing a child who's already potty trained start bedwetting. Stress causes regression in kids where they may be 9, 10 years old and they start acting like they are 4, 5 years old. So you start seeing regression in their sleep. We start seeing regression in their potty training. Sorry, Cuddles is acting special right now, but that's okay. We just need to also remember that we might have some behavioral tantrums, which is also a regression that might happen for teenagers who normally were not being defiant, and all of a sudden now they are acting, and you're like, stop acting like a baby. It's not so much they're acting like a baby, but because of the stress and the anxiety caused by isolation, they may regress back to a developmental stage that is not where they're at this moment. As parents, we need to support our children and reassure them and tell them that we're here to keep them safe. Now, unless the regression takes a turn and becomes extreme, please, at that point, you definitely have to seek medical or clinical help as from a mental health clinician. I would definitely say if it starts becoming extreme. And if you want to know what those extremes are, you can privately ask me a question or send me a text and I will share some examples with you. Issues also that some kids will have as well as adults is insomnia. Okay, I know I had trouble with my sleeping patterns also, but it did not last for a very long time. So during quarantine, we know adults as well as kids are having trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, and even getting quality sleep. Okay, so recognize that that is something that you also, Sherry Ann, hi, that may also be an issue as well for children. And you want to make sure that they're getting as much sleep as possible. If they're starting to lose hours of sleep, that is a problem and you may need to seek medical help for that as well. But if it's just a one night time, one out thing, it's fine. Okay? Because again, who wouldn't be stressed during this time of quarantine? Who wouldn't be anxious? But if it's something that is hindering the child's everyday activity and routine, then yes, please seek assistance. Okay? So, next, we would have when children start saying they're bored. I know many parents have asked, what do I do when my kids are bored? It's not just maybe the child may need some more activities. You may need to, find out different other things that you can do with the child. But as a mental health clinician, I will say to you that boredom is a symptom of depression. And it should be taken seriously, especially if you see it in a child who before can play on their own and they had no problem, like daughter has no issues when she was younger playing on her own using her imagination. If all of a sudden that child is not even able to entertain or engage themselves, that might be a larger issue that we may need to pay attention to. One parent shared with me recently that their child's eating pattern has changed. So, eating too little or eating too much is a red flag for every parent. I know it is. And it should be because we want our children to be eating the appropriate portions that they're supposed to be eating. So, if during mealtime, especially now where all of you are at home alone together, and if you're eating as a family or not, make sure there aren't any distractions. Make sure you guys aren't talking about stressful things around the dinner table. Make sure you are reducing some of the snacks because they could be eating too much, during the day, and that could be affecting their appetite in the evening when you guys are eating together or at proper meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Also, involve the child in the meal preparations. That could be also something that would assist as well because children don't, they get finicky. Some of them are like, no broccoli. That's me. I do not eat broccoli. I do not like broccoli. For some reason, it kind of feels like it's choking me. And maybe that's a mental thing, but I've decided I am not a broccoli eater. So if I prepare something with broccoli in it, I usually will cut it up really tiny. And maybe if I don't see it, I'll eat it. And that's probably how I deal with my broccoli phobia. So if you have children who are finicky eaters, please include them in the meal preparation so that they feel like they're part of it. And when they see that they've made it, they may be more prone to eat it. Okay? Next is a big issue is antisocial behavior. This is a huge issue because especially if you're a child who is very social and all of a sudden now does not want to speak to their friends, does not want to come out their room, they're quieter than usual, they're combative, they're argumentative, they are choosing, excuse me, sorry, need a tissue and my hand sanitizer. My sister would be very proud of me right now. They're choosing, instead of engaging with family, they rather not participate in any family events. They would rather any vegetable. Okay, fine, CT cover. I have issues with most vegetables. You're absolutely correct. But if your child makes a decision that they do not want to participate with anything that's dealing with other people, family or friends, and they would rather stay in their room and not be with others, this is a problem. We want their social interactions to be either virtually with friends and family or literally. They need to come out, a couple of times a day out of their room. We know our teenagers are a little different sometimes and they may choose to be in their room, but you need to see them coming out. You need to have conversations with them, pause with them a little bit, play with them a little bit, do different things like that so that you can do an emotional check in, so to speak. Okay, so those are very important. So children need a sense of structure during quarantine. And I know it's hard for you guys, especially now with schools being closed, having a daily structure can be very difficult. But it's important for everyone to have structure during this time, especially for your psychological and emotional development. So there needs to be for kids a consistent schedule. There needs to be predictable rules and consequences, ladies and gentlemen. There needs to be expectations set by parents that are clear for the children so that they know how to behave. You have to already have a self discipline or some sort of way the children are able to control their impulses and they're aware of what those things are. It's very important for kids to have structure as well, for them to have a sense of safety and a sense of control. All right. Clinically, I often see an increase in behavior problems in children when their routine and their structure has been disturbed. And I know parents, please don't feel as though I think that you need to be super parent all of a sudden and have things happen that don't normally happen in your home or is not possible to happen in your home at this time. I know that it's challenging for you to provide support and structure for some people in their home during this time with their kids. But if you find that you're struggling to do so, I would strongly suggest that you reach out to a clinician for resources, mental health clinician for resources. I have shared many links and many tips, and I have also posted some ahead of time before this Come Sit and Chat. So if you find yourself struggling with, ask for help. Please ask for help, okay? Because your kids are learning from watching you. And now that you guys are home together, they are observing everything that you say, everything that you do. They're watching how you're dealing with your emotions. They are looking at how are you structuring your own life and how are you dealing with your stress and your anxiety. Because we know that when you're experiencing stress at this time, sometimes you forget others that are around you as well. So I need you to be focused and pay very close attention to that, what you're sharing and what you're modeling to your children. So if you're having trouble managing your own stress and your own anxiety, please look through some of the resources and the links that I've shared with you and find a clinician that's able to help you manage your own anxiety and stress because you're modeling this for your kids. Sorry, for your kids. Some of us have children who may have a history of mental illness. And if you do not have structure in the home, it only increases the stress and it worsens the psychiatric symptoms that you or your children may be showing, such as depression and anxiety. So these symptoms that you're seeing may prevent kids from sleeping well, may prevent kids from eating healthy, may prevent kids from behaving appropriately for their developmental stage. So you need to recognize these things and you need to take it very seriously. So some of us have college age kids. I don't, but soon in the next 3 years, I will. So look at your college age children. I don't know if any of you have looked at some of the research studies that have been in play right now, where they've shown that first year college students, there's an increase of depression, anxiety, and suicide for college students under normal circumstances. So can you imagine now? They're home. The things that they used to do to keep themselves connected to their friends or feeling as though they belong when they were at school, those things don't exist at this moment anymore. Okay, so you're finding that They are now, because of the coronavirus quarantine, college students are finding that with this drastic change in being able to connect and feel like you belong, they're feeling like their anxiety is being fueled. We're seeing more cases of they're uncertain of what's going to happen tomorrow, and because they're reacting in very negative ways. We are seeing an increase of suicide. We are seeing an increase of depression, and we're seeing a great deal of self-harm. Parents, you need to pay attention. Just because they are quote unquote adults, they don't know, many of them, how to cope with these emotions. It's their first time, many of them have been here, very much their first time. And if you're not paying attention to them, it is going to amplify into more serious consequences if they do not get treated. So when you recognize something new in your adult child, because it's still your child, even when my daughter is in college, she's still my baby. I am still going to try my best to be there for her emotionally, not just only financially. So pay attention to your children's behaviors. So, some things that you can do to help your child, adult or younger, is control your own anxiety. Because remember, I said being worried can be very contagious at times. Being anxious can also be contagious at times. So, try to make sure that you are sharing credible information with your kids, not conspiracy theories, not fake news. Do your best to control your own anxiety and your own stress. Talk to people, have people around you guys that is supportive for you. Make sure that you are talking with individuals who are not judgmental, who are not stressing you out even more. Okay? I'm still looking. I haven't seen anybody share anything. I hope we're not having any issues with the whole platform today, and that basically you're all just listening intently. Also, take care of yourself physically. I've shared different things that you should do, not only getting good exercise and sleep and eating healthy to reduce your anxiety, but meditating, practicing yoga, listening to nice music, and watching something else on television other than the news. If your child asks you questions, if your child is worried, please be honest, because children know when you're not telling them the truth. So if you're worried about something, it's okay to say, yes, I'm worried, but I know that there are ways to prevent this illness, and mommy and daddy or the whole family, excuse me, is going to practice those ways. Make sure you're approaching your kids and asking them what they do know. So, like I've asked Carrington, what did she hear about the coronavirus? And where did she hear it? Because kids are getting information from lots of places, even from each other. Because those of them who are talking to their friends, they're getting information from each other, and it may be misinformation. So you need to ask your kids, are you concerned about anything major? Are you worried about anything? Let me see if I'm seeing this. Some parents don't know how to communicate because it was not done with them. Exactly, CT cover. So that's the reason why I'm sharing some questions for you to ask your kids. And be open, be active listeners, open to hear what they're saying, validate their concerns, because you know what? They have every right to be worried. So validate their feelings, validate their concerns. If they have the wrong information, please provide them with the right information. Of course, in a language that they're able to understand. Say to them, yes, I know that you're worried grandma is going to get sick. My parents didn't do that, and I turned my parents didn't do that, and I turned out fine. I know. You're right, CT cover. We hear that all the time. I got beaten up all the time, or I got this, or I got that, or my mom did this, or my dad did that. And look at me. I'm okay. Well, your child isn't you. And I want you to react differently. I want you to. My daughter started to pilfer food. Hi, Sherry Ann. Her therapist suggested that she was bored and anxious about the situation. She suggested putting in a fixed routine daily, and so far I'm seeing a bit of improvement. Okay, yes, I don't know about bored, but I do know about the anxious part. I will agree with her therapist, Sherry, that she is anxious because I'm quite sure she's hearing that, people are panic buying and there's less food in the grocery store and things like that. And she wants to make sure that not only that she has something to eat, but maybe if she hides and hoards food, she'll make sure there's food for her family. Okay? So reassure her. I understand you setting the fixed routine. There's nothing wrong with that, but you also need to reassure her because she's terrified. She's terrified of how this disease, this virus, is going to impact her and her family. She cares about others, don't get me wrong, but she cares about her and her family. So reassure her that you are doing the best that you can. Show her the food in the cabinet. Yes, hoarding. Show her the food in the cabinet. Show her, tell her, reassure her that mom is able to purchase more food. We can acquire more things if we need it so that she doesn't have to be worried. Ask her daily, does she have any questions? Does she have any concerns, Sherry? It's very important. Just having the routine is not enough. You need to also be modeling the behavior. So you need to be cognizant of how you are reacting as well. So make sure you're providing reassurance and you're modeling that I don't need to hoard food because I know there's enough food in the refrigerator for us all to eat. Okay, so reassure her and allay her concerns, please. Um, Empower your kids. So when you go to the grocery store, even though you may not take your child with you, have her be part of making a grocery list. So that she is part of those things, so that she knows that her input is necessary as well, especially surrounding the things that worry her the most. We need to also demonstrate behaviors like hand washing, coughing into your elbow, sneezing into a tissue and disposing the tissue, using hand sanitizer, telling the kids to use the happy birthday song twice when they're washing their hands so they know how long. If your child is going out, like now we know in many states and countries, they're beginning phase 1. So if your child is going out, show them there's no handshaking, no hugging and kissing of individuals you don't know. For teenagers, you might do the elbow, bump kind of thing, or just be like, a nod or a bow, something like that. Or I started doing this, like, Mr. Spock, like this, spread your fingers apart that way, and those kinds of things. And that's like a live long and prosper salute that you do for those of us who are Vulcans, like myself, Star Trek fan. So those kinds of things. So you have to teach them and model how they're going to take care of themselves. I can't stress to you enough how much it is that you start reassuring your children. Also, start reminding them that there were other times that you guys as a family may have dealt with things that were challenging. I reminded Carrington about when the air conditioning unit was clogged, sorry, and the ceiling got flooded, and we had this big huge hole in the ceiling. And she was a little concerned and worried, oh my god, do we have to leave the house, what's going to happen? So I reminded her of that as an example of see how mommy dealt with that, how we overcame that. So if you have examples of hard times that you and your family overcame, I would say share those with your kids so they can recognize that you are resilient, that you guys together were able to achieve, and overcome certain obstacles. Don't blame other people. Children are watching you closely. In these stressful times, we have noticed that there are some people who, because of their fear of the coronavirus, have begun blaming specific races, specifically the Asian race. And there is a social stigma that goes towards that for if you see someone who happens to be Asian. You don't know if they're Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Mongolian, you don't know what, but you make the assumption because they look Asian or they are Asian, that they are responsible for coronavirus being in your town, in your city, or they're responsible for someone close to you who died from COVID 19. And you start blaming them. And when you do that, your children see that. And the last thing you want is for your kids to be afraid of someone or all of a sudden starts, being racist and start treating someone badly because you have said negative things about that specific person or that specific race. That's wrong. Remember, racism racism is taught. Hate is taught. And during this time, I hope you are teaching your children to not hate others because they are different or hate others because some idiot on the news, and yes, I'm saying some idiot on the news, number 45, has stated that this is a Chinese virus. It's a Chinese illness, and we should blame Chinese people. Please don't teach your children things like this. I hope you are teaching your children and you're teaching your children love and you're not reinforcing negative stereotypes because they're looking at your actions and they're modeling and copying that. So, in closing, I know I've gone a little over. Well, not really, but in closing, I want you to know that I've posted on the Facebook pages a few resources so that will help you when you talk to your child or your teenager, because it's important for you to use words and phrases and examples that are appropriate to that child where they are developmentally. So some of these resources have tips on helping preschool kids, school age kids, and teenagers as well as young adults. Okay, so no one knows, no one knows at this point how serious the impact of COVID 19 is going to be. We are all living with uncertainty, and I know it's not easy. However, we can help each other become more resilient. I want you to know that. We can help each other become more emotionally stable, and we can work together to physically protect each other as much as possible. Because you can plan how it is you want your kids to engage with others during COVID as well as post. Because we're going into these phases of hopefully going back to as close to normal or our previous normal that we had before. So as we continue in this journey, please continue to wash your hands with soap and water, ladies and gentlemen. Use hand sanitizer when you don't have soap and water. And please wear your mask when you need to. I truly look forward to seeing you guys next on Come Sit and Chat on Tuesday and Friday at 1 p.m. PT time, Pacific time, or 4 p.m. Eastern time. And I also want you guys to know that we have an emotional support group that meets on Wednesdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific time and 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. All you have to do is send me a messenger, text, or WhatsApp, and I'll provide you with the Zoom room code. Okay? So, thank you again, guys, for participating with us today. And please continue to be safe. Please, please, I want you to always know blessings always. And please reinforce positive attitudes, not negative attitudes. I thank you again, and thanks for being patient with all the technical issues we had today. Bye, guys.